Hello, everybody. Happy Friday and good afternoon. If you're here in the Midwest, happy welcome back to winter day, apparently, too. So this is the Digital Boss Boardroom, and I'm so happy that you're here. I'm Bobbi Baehne, your host of the show. We share valuable information here, specifically curated for small business owners to help you more effectively market your business online. This episode is brought to you by the digital marketing experts at Think Big Go Local. And you guys know the routine. We want you to be part of the conversation. So feel free to drop some comments while we're live, or if you're checking this out on the replay, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss anything coming up. All right, so let's talk about today. So I was laying in bed the other night thinking about what we were going to do this topic on, and I thought I would love to share more information about why your small business should be considering a podcast. Who else to bring on to talk about this except for our podcast producer, Mr. Kent Jones from 216 Creator Studios and 216 The Net. Come on in, Kent.
Hello.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, what's happening? Well, let's see. You should.
I still can't hear you.
Let's see. Audio.
I found this on the web.
There you go. Now I hear you.
Now we're in? Okay.
Yeah, now we're in. Awesome. How you doing?
I'm good. It's fun. And that's exactly.
You know what's happening? Here's what's happening.
I'm glad to hear it.
Hold on. Siri is talking to me. Now I said her name. She can talk to me again. That might be why I wasn't hearing you. Oh, good Lord. You know what? Technology. Thank goodness I have a podcast producer. Can you even imagine what this would be going on like right now?
The fun part of it. Except now I'm on your side. I don't know. We're working.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
And I was just going to say, if you're laying in bed thinking about why businesses should podcast, you should talk to a therapist.
I do. I do, for sure. I own a business, and yeah, I have to. I have to.
Absolutely.
So I was looking up some statistics today because I'm going to tell you one thing. Obviously, we recently started this podcast. We had a live stream in the past, but this is different. Mm-hmm. And our intentions for the future of this are different. But one of the things that kind of stopped me from doing it for a while was I really had this like preconceived notion that there's too many podcasts. There's no space for me. That is so wrong. Like, I was looking, you probably know these stats, that there are almost 505 million podcast listeners listening in 7 hours a week on average to podcasts. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. That's actually pretty darn close to what the numbers for how much time people spend on social media are. Some a lot more, but I think that's like the average. Kind of crazy. And growing a lot. So tell me why there's room for this. Like, what's the status of that in the environment right now?
Well, the fun part of it, and I had the opportunity to speak to the National Association of Music Merchants out in Anaheim this January about this very topic. The cool thing about it is a lot of it is the reason that there's room is a lot of it is personality and content. And here's what I mean. If you have a small business, we all say that people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? And I always say, no, that's wrong, because a lot of people know, like, and trust me, but they don't do business with me.
So true. I know what you mean.
But when you have a podcast, unlike a radio show, people fall in love with the personality and or the topic, right? So it becomes more of an intimate one-on-one relationship. So you had Joe Cicero on a while ago, and he and Tina Bree are known in Northern Illinois, Southern Wisconsin, because they've been everybody's morning show for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so they feel as if they know them.
I was just going to say that is such a magical thing when that happens. I mean, there are people I follow that if I ran into them on the street, I would truly assume that we were friends and forget that they don't know who I am. Right. Because you feel that sense of connection so strong sometimes.
Yep. And with podcasting, the listener either loves your content and agrees with it and wants to tune in to that content, or they love the personality and they're going to tune into you because they agree with your philosophies, your energy, all that kind of good stuff. So unlike a live stream, which is wonderful, we're live streaming now, it only reaches so many people.
Right.
But a podcast ends up on search engines. So this topic, why your small business, should think about doing a podcast, is interesting because if somebody Googles that, we're going to pop up. And now they're going to say, who is this Digital Boss Boardroom gal? I like her. Let me keep listening because I have a small business and this is good stuff. Unlike a radio station where all of a sudden they start playing a genre or a song you don't like, you're like, okay, done.
Yeah, and I love live streaming and kind of grew my business that way, but they used to give a lot more attention to live streams. So the algorithms aren't like they used to be. You could go live and actually reach people that didn't follow you. Nowadays, you're lucky if you can reach the people that want to follow you and check your stuff out all the time. So, and that, I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's terrible as this sounds. When I was doing a little bit of research on the topic this week, I came across that as being one of the top reasons. I was like, that never even, for me personally, hadn't gone through my mind, the SEO value of the topics that you're talking about.
Yep. And on the same side of that, about just the personal touch and why you should do it, it's good branding. It gets you out there. And one of the nicest things about that is then after listening to your podcast, and now podcasts can be either video and or just audio, once you're out there, people tend to subscribe more to podcasts than they do to Facebook pages or things like that, right?
Yep.
And so now they'll start getting notices when a new show just dropped, a new episode just dropped. Oh, okay. And you know what? I'm bored. Let me go see what Bobbi has to say on the Digital Boss Boardroom. Oh, here's one that I didn't listen to, and it could be 5 years old.
Yeah. And, and the cool thing I think about podcasts that are unique in terms of media is if we're on our phone watching social media, watching a video, we have to be on our phone doing that thing, right? But with podcasts, I think the majority of people are multitasking. So you're able to listen while you're cleaning the house, driving to work, like doing whatever it is you're doing. It's a unique way to reach people because they can consume without having to give you all their attention.
Yep.
Which makes it easier for them to listen longer. The longer they listen, I'm guessing the algorithms feed that to more people, just like everything else. If people stay tuned in, it seems more relevant.
A lot of podcasts, if you watch, there's a lot of commercials, a lot of sponsor shout out and readouts inside right around the 10-minute mark, right? The average podcast in America today is 43 minutes long, right? And people think about doing podcasts. How long do you spend on the treadmill? Right. And
that's good.
And so most people are on that treadmill for 20 to 40, 45 minutes. Never, unless you got some crazy person. But that's where a lot of people ended up started really listening to podcasts and finding podcasts is like, hey, let me just, listen. And you're gonna have the mega superstars like Joe Rogan who do it for 4 hours or whatever. And that's a lot of work and he's getting paid millions of dollars. But I've never heard somebody say, man, I really loved his 3-hour podcast the other day.
Oh yeah. And you know what? I've gotten to the point where I want to watch my podcast on TikTok where they just grab the best pieces.
Yep. Give me some good nuggets, right?
Yeah, right. Which is also one thing I love about podcasting too, is the opportunity to repurpose like that. I mean, if that's where I'm spending my time, someone's able to reach me there with their podcast in a way that I prefer to consume content. So like being able to repurpose and break that up and put it in places where people are spending other parts of their time is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Ron says,
Ron.
It's so funny. If I invest in a podcast, I never multicast. It's completely different from radio or multitask.
Multitask, I'm sure is what he meant. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. A podcast becomes very, very intimate, right? And very, very personal. And Like right now, people are like, man, I love Bobbi's show. It's great. She's got all these great small business ideas, and there was a spelling error, right? If you're why your small piz was in there, and somebody reached out to me and says, hey, there's a spelling error in your advertisement for this week's show. I said, no, it's not. I said, tune in and find out what it is.
Was that on my description? Probably, because I threw that together so fast.
Yeah.
That's funny. Nope, it meant to be that way. You better find out what they're talking about.
And what it is, it looks like a P, but the bottom of that capital B was silent. So it's, we're just talking about the top of the business.
Hey, if it got people, you know what? It's nice to know people are paying attention.
That's right.
Know people are paying attention.
That's right.
So talk to me briefly, because I remember this happening years ago when Facebook Live was launching and I was doing all of that thing. You started was that your first time you started your first podcast?
Yeah. Coach Papa and I started Two Bald Guys on the radio, actually, and our lives started kind of blowing up. So we left FM, and that's why we created this space. And now it's kind of morphed into a creative studio where we do a lot more than just, podcasting, but it's been a fun run. But yeah, it was one of those that Monday mornings, people, for whatever reason, back in 2016, were like, hey, you guys are great. And you're like, we don't know what we're doing.
And you're still doing it. I mean, it's still going on. No, and I love it. So here's one of my questions, because most of my audience are small business owners. And when I do this, I don't talk about my small business. I mean, I mention it, but it's never for us meant to promote the business necessarily, but maybe more of our expertise. But talk a little bit about how a small business can launch a podcast in their space, maybe find a niche, but not kill people with over promotion. Like how is this going to help a small business owner to grow when we all know nobody wants to listen to you talk about your own business for 40 minutes?
Yep. You want to, and like you do here, which is absolutely beautiful, is topic specific that will help elevate other people, right? When you need to learn how to clean out your dryer vent, you go to YouTube, right? You let clean out dryer vent. So if you can come up with topics that are good content that's meaningful to people, they're going to search you out and look for you. If you are just on there blabbing about, don't be a commercial. In other words, this isn't a commercial, right. but it's brought to you through the support of our friends over at Think Big, Go Local, which do a great job. And it's those shout outs and those, branding opportunities that people go, wait a minute, I know Think Big, Go Local. They do the thing on the thing, right?
Thing about the thing.
Yeah. And so when you're doing it in your own space, I mean, we started the same way you did with an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
And an iPhone and a tripod. And we didn't really know what we were doing. And now, these doggone #pocket computers are so strong and the cameras are so good. If you've got good lighting.
I do. The Botox ring lights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come a long way, baby.
Yeah. and usually now your microphone off of the camera or off of your laptop or whatever, it's got good sound. But again, you want to form the show, have some questions, have a format to it, so that you're not just sitting there going,
right. Yeah.
And then then you create an event on social media to say, hey, here's the new drop, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the very interesting thing is, do you know what day is the best day for podcast uploading or downloading a new episode for a podcast?
Is it Friday morning? No.
I said that too. It's actually Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning.
Tuesday
More,
morning or Wednesday. So here I am Friday afternoon.
more people look for content on Tuesday morning and Wednesday than any other time. And this is across the globe. It's just not in America. So this is whatever it is. I found that interesting too, because I said Friday morning as well, because on our station, Friday is our big jam-packed day. And this is where we get most of the followers, listeners. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So we've got a show with Matt Barafato that's called the Purpose Hunter, and we drop a new episode. He's just straight podcast, no live streaming, anything like that. And we drop a new episode every Wednesday morning, and it's amazing. The hits on it. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yep. So you don't want to be the person that is, hey, I'm walking out to the mailbox today, and I thought about something that I did in PE in 7th grade, and it looks like the Blair Witch Project with the shit, if you're that incessant person that just keeps putting out poor content and weird live streams, every time people see you, it's like scroll. There they are again. Great. I don't have time for them. But when you give it a couple of days, like we do here with the Digital Boss Boardroom, is, hey, on Wednesday we go, hey, this Friday, here it is. Here's an invite. You make it you make it an event and invite people in, and then people go, oh, it gives them time to think and go, okay, yeah, I like this.
And to realize, like, this is something I want to know about, or it's not, which is okay too.
Yeah.
When you were talking before about kind of finding that niche, I had a little tip that I don't know if anyone's ever used the website Answer the Public, but it's super cool. You can go in there and drop some keywords about your industry, a topic, and it will actually show you the long tail forms that people are searching, which if you do that and you name your podcast something people are actively searching for, there you go. You're immediately attracting a new audience because you're giving specific answers people are wanting. So nice little space to go figure out, how do I name my topics, or what do people really want to know about right now that will help me offer some true value to the audience I'm seeking.
The other great thing as far as a business goes with a podcast, as opposed to live streaming, is you get strong analytics this on which podcast platform you use, where it'll say, hey, this is, this episode, you had this many more listeners, this is your most listened to. And when you can hone in and go, ooh, look at it, was it that topic? What were the hashtags I used? What made that? Now you go, oh, everybody says the algorithm, it always changes. No, that's good. The algorithm's your friend, and your algorithm will tell you what your listeners want.
Yeah,
right?
Very true.
Not that we're trying to keep people away from you, but once you understand that the algorithm's your friend, and if all of a sudden people start disappearing, why? You got to go back and look at those analytics and go, wow, when we were talking about personal brand with Joe Cicero, that was our most listened to episode, and it still is today. So what was it about that? Was it Joe? Was it the topic? Yeah. Let's not forget Brian. We'll throw Brian in there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't want to always just say Joe. I'm just, but the idea is, again, with those analytics as a small business, now you know what your listeners and your potential clients want, and you can deliver that better.
Absolutely. All right. So let me ask you, I got a few questions for you, if that's okay. One of the things that I've always had people push back on when I've been working with small business owners is they don't have what they need to start a podcast or even live stream, anything of that nature. So make it really clear to us. What do you actually need to get started if you wanted to launch a podcast?
An iPad, a smartphone. You need a microphone and a camera. It's all on, it's all right here on your hashtag pocket computer, and you're good to go. And something to set the phone on. Don't try to hold it in your hand, right? That's really all that you need to get going with that. Now, if you're doing it for your business, you could have a little bit of branding behind you, right? Your purple, your white, the stuff that you have there really defines your brand as well. So it's, if it's recognizable, that's the big thing too.
Yeah.
But those are really the three things that you need. You don't have to invest in a huge webcam, or you don't have to invest in a $2,000 microphone. A Yeti that plugs into your USB is incredible.
I think that's what I got going on here.
Yeah.
My Yeti Blue. I can't get it in the screen.
Yeti Blues are great. And Yeti, feel free to send Bobbi a check for that.
Yeah. And so I did all of those things and started, and we have obviously changed our strategy a bit, and we're working with you now because I'm just going to say the reasons why I'm doing that. A couple reasons. One, we wanted to level up what we were doing. The live streaming was great. I totally lost my mojo during COVID, so it stopped happening. And instead of bringing it back the way we used to, we wanted to kind of change things up. So we got in touch with Kent and Drew over at 216. Are you guys going by 216 Creator Studios now? Yeah. Okay. 216 The Net is their radio station, by the way. So that's still there. And got in touch with you guys. And for me, it was a couple of things. One, to do it right, there's a lot of moving pieces. You can do it on your own. I did the live stream on my own, had my little process, but I love that I just show up and someone's there taking care of the hard stuff and it's getting all set up. What I love the most, and this is just for me, is I actually show up because somebody's waiting for me to do it. Like Brian had said to me, is this working out for you? I'm like, I'm doing it every week. Yeah, it's working out. But I want you to talk a little bit about what you guys do at 216 Creator Studios, because if you're someone that wants to podcast, but you are nervous about the tech, or you really care about the way you show up and you're not willing to just kind of throw it out there and see what happens, these are the guys to talk to. So I want to hear a little bit. I know my audience wants to hear a little bit about how you can help.
Yep. So at 216 Creator Studios, we've got three pieces to the puzzle. So we've got live streaming. That's what you're watching right now. And that's why it says live up in the corner. So we've got the potential to live stream to all of your social media platforms except TikTok. And that's just a pain in the butt to do. But you can take this MP4 when you're done and you can chop it up and put it into TikTok format. We've got the podcasting, which we work with places like Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Podbean. And so this show then, the audio goes into a podcast. So when people are searching for podcasts, they find it. And then we've got our radio side of 216 The Net, where we are a non-genre station. We play music and all sorts of fun things. But every one of our podcasts end up being shows that are run 2 or 3 times each week. On the radio side, thanks to COVID, people were looking for different outlets, and we've got a 35 million person reach globally. So, I mean, that's a huge amount of people who will tune in and go, what is this about? Right.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 studios right now. We've got one in McHenry and we've got one in Crystal Lake. And I'm at the one in Crystal Lake in the green room because our computers are updating. But we've got soundboards, mixers, we've got lights, cameras, action, and the ability to hopefully put out a good production for people. Whether it's spoken word, whether it's music, whether you want to do an audiobook, voiceover work, whatever the case may be. We've got the ability with good content creators and creative minds to say, like last night, I was spending some time with the Lake in the Hills Rotary. They've got the Rock and Rib Fest coming up in July, where we're talking about putting together some commercials for them that they'll play out on Spotify, the radios, that we'll also do some shorts and some reels and things like that for their social media. So we've got the ability to be very, very creative there. We are, people think we're crazy because we love small businesses. So we're small business centric. Our prices reflect that. And if we can help you win, that's what we want to do. Right.
And when you're talking about prices, I mean, when you're putting together you have a variety of things you do, but just so people know, like you're producing that podcast, you're helping find sponsors, you're, literally you're paying for all the software that makes all of the live streaming happen.
Yep.
I mean, I know right now I am live on my Facebook, your Facebook, my YouTube, your YouTube, LinkedIn. I don't know where we were all over the place.
Twitch, Twitter, or
Twitch,
X or whatever.
wherever we're at. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, to invest in all that on your own, you're going to have a lot of costs anyway.
Yep.
When it comes to the types of podcasts, so I know you guys have people that come to you that say, hey, I have an idea. This is what I want to do. But I believe you've told me before, you guys have had some of your own ideas that you're waiting for people to want to go and run with too.
Yeah. So we sit down as a company and we're like, hey, here's an idea. So, we have a show. That's how Roger That Chronicles came to be. Man, wouldn't it be cool to have a show for veterans by veterans that talk, they can talk about war and things that veterans talk about, and then bring up, good things for veterans. So, every other Thursday we have Roger That Chronicles, which is run by veterans, hosted by veterans. They bring in veterans. I mean, it's awesome. And we went to some veterans and they're like, man, we'd love that. Okay, here it is. You can buy it from us. Right. And then they own it. So it's kind of our IP, but then we give it away. We looking at one called Book 'em Dano, right? Where, hey, let's get some police officers involved and kind of the same thing. Let's listen to some weird stories, on the police officer side. We'll change the names to protect the innocent. But.
Or not so innocent.
So we're always looking. Now, the two areas that we will not touch is politics and the news, right? We'll come very close at times, but those two things are so divisive in the world that here at 216 Creator Studios, you go someplace else for that. We don't want that.
How refreshing.
We want to bring people together, and where they could, turn on a podcast and go, well, that was good. It's a kind of your daily dose of encouragement. We call it. Tune in and get your daily dose of encouragement and go, oh, that was all right. That was a cool show.
That is, I appreciate that too, because I'll tell you, there's just not enough it's very enjoyable about the news these days. Yeah. Or if regardless of what you think about it, as soon as you say something about it, someone else thinks the opposite. So it doesn't even matter what you think. So I love when you're mentioning some of the podcasts that you guys do have, because you've got some really interesting ones. And I know the people that are watching this on your channels pretty much know what you have, but the people that are watching it on mine may not. So tell us about some of the more popular or interesting podcasts you guys have going on. I will throw out, I love my girl, our big body, Kelsey. Bigger mouth, Kelsey. Oh my gosh.
Brand new show, and she's one of the creative minds that is starting to work with us on things. And she's going to be producing some shows and things like that. But this young lady, what is she, 20, maybe 21? And she's got her show, Big Body, Bigger Mouth. And this is, and she covers anything, and
I mean anything. And there is no shame. Like she is so unapologetically herself that it just, I love it. I love it.
What it was the last one, I'm gonna butcher it, like things I hate and things I slay or something. I don't know.
I haven't seen that one yet. I actually I write it on my calendar so I go back and watch. And that one's special to me because Kent came and spoke in my classroom. I teach at the local college, and it was just so fun. We've told this story probably, but Kent and Drew were going to like stump the class and kind of put them on the line and, see who had some interest and then actually make them record a podcast. So he said, anyone want to be a podcast host? Kelsey says yes. He gets a producer, puts him behind the camera, shows him what he's doing, gets an assistant. She's hanging there. And then out of nowhere, he's like, 3, 2, 1, you're live. And my mouth dropped like, oh boy, not Kelsey's. That girl picked up that microphone and crushed it.
I mean, she rolled like she had been doing podcasts for the last 20 years. And I'm like, Drew and I were both like, what just happened?
That didn't work. But now she's in your studio every other Monday, right? And maybe
Yep.
more often.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this past Monday she had a great show. Wednesday mornings, we've got the metaphysical meanderings with Master Psychic Lana Duncan Hartgraves. She is an incredible psychic, and just we call it metaphysical meanderings because she'll see a squirrel and she'll go get it. But she's awesome at what she does. She's been a practicing psychic for 30 years. We've got two bald guys and a microphone, of course. The Purpose Hunter is one with Matt Barafato. We've got the Reject Rundown. It's a group of young men who are cousins and brothers, and they talk pop culture. You name it, movies, Comic-Con, everything that excites the young people today. I say young people because I'm old, the energy on that show is so cool. A huge following on there too. The Reject Rundowns. They're on twice a month on Sunday night at 9.
I have to listen to that one. I haven't heard that one. I'm writing that one down.
That is a good one. We've got let me tell you something, brother. It's an all-star wrestling show with Tom Odell. We've got innovative strategies with Bill Hasse. That's a big time business. He brings in some really quality business. It's a very, very dry, very, very boring, but good on business stuff.
Well, and for some people, if it's value, it's value. Yeah,
that's right. In the Know with Steph and Joe.
I watch that one frequently, checking out what they're chatting about.
They're goofy. They're two small business owners. One owns a franchise, is a franchisee. The other owns her own bookkeeping company. And they talk about huge, kind of almost a roundtable for small business ideas and things that you kind of in a funny kind of unattacking way. And sometimes you walk out
casual. Yeah, super. You just feel like you're hanging out having coffee with.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep. We are blessed too. We have a show on Monday mornings at from 7:30 to 8. It's called Mike and Fran Unrehearsed. And we are proud to say that we have the oldest podcast host in the world. Fran is 96 years old, and she and her son Mike Latone talk about whatever is happening. They're big Cubs fans, so they might be talking about the Cubs one day, and she'll bring up something from 80 years ago when she was 16, and you're like, wow, and she's brilliant and funny and kind of Betty White-ish. Mike, and it's called Mike and Fran Unrehearsed. And that's just on the podcast side and on the radio side. So it's not a live stream, but just brilliant. And I don't brag about it enough to say that we have the world's oldest podcast host that does a regular podcast. So
they are a trip.
They are.
They are a trip. And you can listen to them on the radio too on 216 Net, right? On Monday mornings.
Yep. And then we've got Nick Espinoza. Much like you, Bobbi, Nick has done 2 TED Talks. He's a white hat hacker. He talks a lot about data security and stuff like that, and weird things that are happening in the IT world. But he's brilliant. I mean, he's done work for the Pentagon. He's done work for the FBI. So every time he and I go out to lunch, I'm like, CIA knows I'm eating lunch with you today. He goes, yeah, I'm sure. But he's on Tuesdays at 5, and it's called The Deep Dive with Nick Espinoza. It's just he came with us from the radio station, so he's been with us really the longest, which is good. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Yeah. All right, well, I'm pretty much out of questions, but I have one thing. I just wanted to throw this out and ask you because I'm just mesmerized by this whole thing happening in TikTok. Not the fact that they're trying to close it because that's been going on forever, but have you heard about this woman who did this show? Who Did I Marry? And on TikTok, it's like this CSI season that she does in 3 to 10 minute segments. And it's like just gone insane, crazy. And I have students telling me they are going on TikTok watching entire movies in 3-minute segments. And they're like, I won't watch it on Netflix, and I'll sit on TikTok and watch the entire movie because somebody broke it down into little bit. Is that not crazy? What do you think about this? I keep trying to figure out what does this tell me about people?
Our attention spans are crazy, right? And I keep
going to the next one. So I'm like, I started with attention span, but I'm like, I mean,
but if you're there for an hour and a half looking at 3 minutes at a crack, it's weird.
It's weird, right? I think it's weird too. And I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm just trying to understand why. Why do you not want to watch Netflix, but you want to watch it on TikTok?
And on this little screen, right?
Right. And that on top of it.
Got an 80-inch TV in my living room. I'd rather watch it there.
Yeah. I think it's so crazy. And I mean, this woman who did the little episodes, I mean, that was kind of brilliant. Like that to me, I loved, because that's such the epitome of storytelling, which so many people are missing in this whole content creating process. You know, they're just thinking very linear and not really thinking about what does that big picture feel like. Like, I mean, that's why people like podcasts, right? It's not about just here's what we're talking about today. It's kind of about the personality, the banter, the, you know, in between the lines, right?
Yeah, and some of the most listened to podcasts are like the murder mysteries, right? I mean, so we now go back to the 1950s when we didn't have television, and it was gather around the radio. So a lot of the podcasts, very, very popular ones, are the good storytelling ones, and the murder mysteries are huge still, because you're like, oh, let me follow this. Let me see if I can crack this.
My daughter listens to it's so interesting, which just really is a good reminder of how many opportunities are out there to do something unique, to be heard, to build relationships with people, to make them feel connected to you, and then eventually your brand, you know, and keep it somewhere in your purview of what it is that you do, and you'll be attracting an amazing audience.
And that's why I say, you know, with this Digital Boss Boardroom, we don't know what 14-year-old in 5 years is going to be an incredible entrepreneur that goes, what is this Digital Boss Boardroom thing that's out there?
Yeah.
Tune in, and now my brand gets, you know, a bump 5 years from now, because if it's on the internet, it lives forever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great point.
And so that is worth its weight in gold, because in 5 years, maybe this 14-year-old who then is 19 with their own business goes, hey, are you guys still? Oh, you are still around. Hey, I saw this on Digital Boss Boardroom. Oh my gosh, that was 5 years ago. Oh yeah, you know, and so, you know, when you take a look at advertising costs and things like that, very expensive for a 30-second cut on an FM station or an AM station. But when that 30-second cut can live on a podcast forever, it never goes away.
Agreed. And you know what? All I ever watch, I love that we stream to YouTube and that the videos end up there, because it's probably an attention span thing, but I almost don't watch TV anymore, because why watch an entire news segment when I can get all the facts, the things I actually want to know without everything else in a 2-minute video on YouTube, or, you know, and that's just, so I just am always watching YouTube, but it still amazes me how I'll watch a video and then the next thing that rolls in is a 4-year-old video from someone that, you know, like it happens all the time. They're like, you like this person and you never watched this. So they're still feeding people videos that happened a long time ago to active users who are on there all the time because they know what you like. So yeah, so many benefits.
Yep, it's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, I am about ready to wrap this up. I had a little birthday party last night. Really happy to call this Friday a day early today, I think. It was a good one. Any last comments from you, Kit?
You know what? We are blessed and humbled to be working with you and Think Big Old Local on this project. Love being in front of the camera once in a while. I like being behind it a little bit better. But absolutely, thank you so much for letting me shout out to 216 Creator Studios and being a part of this journey for you.
Absolutely, and links to in the description, you'll find links to 216 and at 216 Creator Studios. So be sure to go check them out. And, you mentioned this last week, so I feel like it's safe to mention it, but I got a sneak preview of your new website that'll be launching, I'm guessing, probably pretty soon.
Yes.
Pretty cool. What do you
It's
think?
cool.
It's getting pretty cool.
I was playing around in it last night, just going, this is awesome, right?
Yeah, well, I got my partner Brian's building the site, and he's like, I just learned how to do something new. He was pretty excited about it.
I mean, it is. I'm super stoked. It's killer. And again, I built our last one, and it looks like a third grade did it with a crayon. So,
well, I mean, this one looks different, but it even looks different from the first run through that happened. And when I saw it this time, I'm like, the colors, the vibe, it's just good. I can't wait for everybody to see it. So be watching.
That's what I love. It screams creativity.
It does.
I mean, it's going to be cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody for joining us today. Listen, I say this every week. If you've got an expertise or an experience that you want to share with other small business owners, shoot me a message, drop a comment, direct message me, whatever it takes. We would love to have you on the show. And if you are interested in finding out more about launching your own podcast, Kent's the guy. So reach out, let him know. We'll get in touch with you and see how we can help you do that. So with that, we will be back next Friday at noon. Watch our events. We'll post the topics and guests on our Think Big Go Local page, and we'll make sure to tag 216 Creator Studio so it's over there too. Have a great day, everybody. Have an awesome weekend, and hopefully all this snow we're getting here is going to be gone quick. I hope.
Amen.
I'm for real. I'm ready. My tulips are trying to come up. This is nonsense. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.